Hoy there, chummers, and welcome to The Sixth World, the show where we wade through a river of dreck to get at the chip truth of the Shadowrun universe. Today we're going to cover the Shiawase Decision, an event that quite literally upended the balance of power in the world and helped create the modern megacorps that runners love to hate. The year was 1997. America's 4th of July victory over the alien scourge was still fresh in everyone's mind. Ace of Base released the only song that anyone remembers, and the Shiawase Corporation had built a brand new, shiny aluminum plant in the California heartland. Because what better way to end a hard day's work of pressing soda cans into shape than relaxing in the land of sun, surf, and forest fires? While Shiawase's employees were enjoying all the California girls they could handle, the plant itself was running into a bit of a power issue. Shiawase had plugged the plant into the local power grid when it came online, which seemed like a good idea at the time. Unfortunately, California's utilities are about as useful as their forest management policies, and the plant turned out to be a major drain on the power grid. The drain was so bad that electricity prices shot up a heart-stopping 550% in the first 6 months of the plant's operation. Naturally, Shiawase found the current state of affairs unacceptable and set about crafting a plan to stop the financial bleeding before their shareholders stormed the CEO's office with torches. In 1998, Shiawase petitioned the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to let them build a small, itty-bitty nuclear reactor inside the aluminum plant. The reactor would power the plant, thus removing it from the local power grid and saving Shiawase's bottom line in the process. Shiawase execs no doubt thought this clever plan would receive swift approval from the NRC, and I'm sure many a line of coke was snorted in the boardroom in celebration. Unfortunately, the NRC was having none of Shiawase's dreck and promptly canned the proposal without so much as a how do you do. The NRC argued that the benefits of Shiawase's proposed reactor would only be acceptable if they balanced out the risks of operating the plant itself. Of course, Shiawase sued the NRC, and the two sides prepared to argue their respective cases in the U.S. court system in the year 2000. The NRC cited Wickard v. Filburn as justification for their decision. I won't get into the details of Wickard v. Filburn, but suffice to say the Supreme Court ruled specifically that the government had the ability to control agricultural pricing and production if such activity would have a detrimental impact on interstate commerce, no matter how small. Shiawase countered by stating that Wickard v. Filburn was specific to agricultural commerce, and that the reactor would only be big enough to power the plant, as the local grid was obviously unable to meet the plant's needs and was thus affecting its production. Shiawase also stated that their goal was not to overproduce anything or affect electrical prices, a fact which the NRC itself had acknowledged. Shiawase argued for these reasons Wickard v. Filburn did not apply in this case. Unsurprisingly, the NRC lost the court battle, and the case ended up in front of the Supreme Court. Unfortunately for the NRC, the Supreme Court decided to review all aspects of the case, including the list of weird and wacky requirements the NRC had placed upon Shiawase before they would even consider allowing them to build their own backyard nuclear reactor. One requirement the NRC had imposed was the fact that any reactor built on the premises would need to be secured by local police forces. This requirement was an attempt to get around the continuity of responsibility established by 1999's Saratech decision, and the court was more than a little miffed about the government's attempts to sidestep a ruling that was barely a year old. The court struck down this requirement, and Shiawase was given the go-ahead to start building their reactor in July of 2000 with limited NRC oversight. Shiawase completed their reactor in the fall of 2000, and all was right with the world. That is, until the radical eco-terrorist group Terra First decided to launch a raid on Shiawase's shiny new toy in an effort to blow it to Kingdom Come. The Terra First team that attacked the reactor was said to be using mil-spec gear, weapons, and training, and had more than enough explosives to complete their mission. The team managed to reach the containment zone around the reactor before being detected by Shiawase's security forces. A furious battle ensued which saw the entire Terra First team wiped out, but not before they managed to breach the reactor and contaminate the immediate area. For their part, Terra First would claim that the entire incident was a setup by Shiawase and had gathered evidence that the Terra First team was in actuality a Shiawase Special Forces team. Said evidence would regrettably be lost when a random, bomb-fueled explosion destroyed Terra First's California offices. What a shame, eh, chummers? The NRC was obviously supremely pissed and prosecuted Shiawase for criminal negligence and reckless endangerment, and the two parties once again ended up in front of the Supreme Court in 2001. The NRC had argued that Shiawase had been unable to maintain adequate security around the reactor, which had allowed the terrorists to breach it. Shiawase countered with the direct evidence showing their security forces could have defended the reactor against a force 3 times the size of the Terra First team, but that the NRC's rather spiteful regulations and requirements had tied their hands, and it was only sheer good luck that Shiawase security was able to detect the team when they did. In addition, Shiawase cited the court's own Saratech decision and reminded them that a corporation had security obligations when exploiting any resource, including a nuclear power plant. The NRC's oversight and regulations had led directly to Shiawase being unable to meet its security obligations as defined by the Saratech decision. Shiawase cited Lochner v. New York and West Coast Hotel Company v. Parrish and reminded the court that the government was only permitted to restrict freedom of contract, a constitutional right protected by the 14th Amendment, to protect security, health, morals, and the public welfare. Shiawase argued that the government no longer had the right to restrict freedom of contract if a law or regulation directly threatened security, health, morals, or the public welfare. In a legal masterstroke, Shiawase's lawyers argued that the precedents as laid out by all of these cases meant the government had only two choices: either shut down all nuclear power plants everywhere in the country, or allow their owners complete autonomy to provide their own security forces. In effect, Shiawase's legal team was arguing for the age-old concept of extraterritoriality to be applied to corporations. After a weeks-long deliberation process, the Supreme Court eventually decided in favor of Shiawase. Corporations would now have complete autonomy with regard to nuclear power plants, chemicals, waste processing, armaments, services related to national security, water and food supplies, and hospitals. Salaries, working hours, security measures, and equipment usage and properties were likewise exempt from regulation as long as such exemption did not affect the quality of the product or the service sold. Perhaps foreseeing the potential effects such a decision would have on society, the court restricted these exemptions to the workplace, meaning that a corporation was unable to restrict the rights of its employees when they were off-site. This decision effectively rendered corporations sovereign entities exempt from the laws and regulations that governed the surrounding nation-state. And that, chummers, is why an Azzy Blood Mage is allowed to conjure up a terror from the great beyond to boil your brain out of your ears when they catch you taking an unauthorized stroll through their warehouse. And that's the chip truth, chummers. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more Shadowrun content. Hit that notification bell so you will always know when I upload a brand new Shadowrun video, and until next time, remember to shoot straight and never, ever deal with a dragon.